Kenya be the country that we need to be in.
Indeed, and we should, but unfortunately we are not. Another thing that quite comes out clearly is that the lack of resources. We have witnessed that politics, mostly in developing countries, is all a matter of resources.
Yes.
Youths, majority of youths do not have adequate resources to enter into politics. But that aside, they can actively participate in politics despite not being political leaders. But unfortunately, the political elite use this avenue either to use or misuse the youth, because they know very well is if they want to mobilize the youth, they will have to use money. But if the youth want to mobilize the youth, they do not have the resources that are there. And looking at the current economic situation, the youth can comfortably say that we do not participate in active politics because of the resources that are required. And the political elite and the old politicians are the ones having their field day.
It is not the finances, according to my understanding. If you go back to the Bible, there was King Pharaoh who had a dream of 7 fat cows, eated 7 skinny cows, eated 7 fat cows, and they were still skinny. It is in the Bible. When he had this dream, he ran around and talked with the wise men to interpret the dream about what the dream that he had. And nobody could interpret the dream. What we need as a country now, we need God to intervene with the current leader, who is the President, Kenyatta. We want God to intervene with him, and God to enter his brain, his mind, his heart, and his body with all capacity for him to listen to the will of the people, to the will of God. You remember Joseph, who was in jail, and he went and interpreted the dream for Pharaoh, and that is what helped that nation. In the history of our country today, I was driving here, I used the new expressway. If you drive there, Nairobi looks really beautiful, and I want to congratulate President for that. And when I use that road, instead of spending 1,000 in traffic, I'm spending 300 shillings to get where I'm going without wasting time too. What we lack is the implementers. I've been saying here frequently that when we can choose the right president of the Republic of Kenya, who can wake up and think of implementing and build many companies, many factories, which will accommodate our youths, you know, and then by the time we start producing something as a country, then the youth will have something in their pocket, which will allow them now to vie for any political position and win. Because any campaign needs money.
And resources.
But you cannot get resources while there's nothing that is coming in from your company to your pocket. So I'm just requesting the new coming government, because on 9th we must have, on 10th we must have the new government. We must have it. So I'm just talking whoever is going to win. I don't want to say I'm on the side of Azimio or I'm on the side of Kenya Kwanza. I'm just talking as a Kenyan, that whoever is going to take over the power, can we change the leadership skills of saying, when I'm being elected, I will bring this to the youth. When I'm being elected, I will improve the kazi kwa vijana. Can we change that to building factories, building companies? Then we can do a lot of processing. When we process even food, we make our own metals, you know, then from there we are going to earn. And this country will be strongly in economy.
And it's a good thing, Newton, you have mentioned on Kazi kwa Vijana. There are so many youth empowerment programs that we have in the country, and some of the youth have talked about, and it's actually true, because they do not know where to start, where to begin, where to go, which office to knock, which door to open, you know. Civic education has been ignored, for lack of a better word, because some of the youth, and especially when we go to the marginalized areas, they do not even know how they can seek help. And so they are so hell-bent on talking about let whoever takes. So I will not go and take my vote. I will not go and cast my ballot. We need to change this.
No, because, you know, everybody's tired of voting to our leaders, and they keep on saying the same thing every 5 years.
The handout politics.
The handout politics. Like now, politics is too expensive. If you go down there in the country, you have to give people some money in the name of I'm buying you some sugar. This money, if you give, for example, if you have 40,000 voters and you give them money for the time that you are campaigning, how much are you going to use? And how did you get this money? That's a question that should be asked. But now, being it is open, that it is the way to go. You are spending this money, which means you are going to gain, because nobody wants to lose. By the time you gain, as a member of parliament, as a governor, you have to look a way of taking back this money from the government to your pocket, because it is yours. And you are still thinking of being re-elected again. So you must make these people to be more poor, so when you come back, you cheat them. If I'm being elected, I'm going to beautify our health section. I'm going to build new hospitals. I'm going to pave the roads, which actually the money for that is there because we are paying tax. But being we know we are dealing with people who did not understand, they will say, this is the person who is having the best agenda, we have to vote him because he give us some money. Like if you see the politics going around now, is money. If you want to be popular, you must have a lot of money, and then you go down there, and then you will be elected, which is wrong. I've been watching TV and I see if you're being connected with any corruption or your name is in court, you will never be given an opportunity to vie for political position. But I've seen people I know in Kenya who their names are in court and they are free to vie for political position.
It's actually an issue that was brought about by EACC and other state agencies in regard to that. But we're going to talk about matters integrity a little bit later. I have seen IEBC conduct civic education.
Yes.
There is the National Youth Council. But unfortunately, a case in point, if we have a National Youth Council and we want youth to actively participate in politics, I think the best thing would be, first of all, to hold nationwide National Youth Council election, so that we know that we have, the youth maybe, have leaders that they themselves have elected, not appointed, elected. And the democratic process could maybe change the tide. Another thing, we have witnessed in schools, they have started some democratic progress, because there are some schools who have a school president, they have a deputy, they have a prefect, and they elect them, as opposed to because when I was in school, there was nothing like that. They were appointed by either the head teacher or maybe by some of the teachers. Could that perhaps change the mindset that we have in the country?
Yeah, it is changing, but you know, when we go back to election or party primaries, you will find the party has its own rules or laws of doing their party primaries. You will see they said you can be elected through the people, which is the ballot, or you can be appointed by the party, or you can be you can sit and have a consensus of who is popular to take the position, which is not the democratic way, because whenever it's going to run for any political position, him himself or herself feel that I am the best until being proven by the people. But you know, our political parties are coming with another thing that the party can decide. We can go through the consensus, you know, or we can go through the election, which to me I have no problem with, but it is not the good way to exercise the democratic way of electing our officers. I was watching the president saying that me as Uhuru Kenyatta, I am one person and I have my one vote and I have the right to vote for somebody I want. That is the democracy. That's a democracy. You can choose any side of lineup you want, because it's a person. But you know, the problem which this thing bring to us is one. It is a leadership within the circle. It's a circle thing. But if it is not Newton, it is Njue, or it is somewhere else, somebody else. If it is not somebody else, it is Njue, or Newton, or your child, or my child, or, you know, this thing is coming up. I'm not afraid to say it. But I have no problem with it, so long as the people who are in power can provide good leadership to the country. Yeah.
And still on that, there has been suggestion that we can increase the representation of the youth by supporting some of the aspirants who are vying for political seats, either in kind or in finances. Do you think perhaps that can increase the representation of youth in leadership positions?
What will increase the youth in leadership? Number one, we need to change the constitution on the Election Act. So we should have 3 or 2 types of election. The presidential should be only presidential at a certain year, and the member of parliament and the governors should be on their year, even the Senate.
More or less like what US does.
Exactly, like what US does. So this will give youths an opportunity to exercise their democratic right, because there will be a certain office which is still ongoing. You know, like in the US, they elect senators 2 years, they elect member of Congress 6 years, and president 4 years. So we are not doing 6 elections at once. But you know, in Kenya, we're doing 6 elections at once. Which means if
actually
at all,
in a single day.
In a single day.
Yeah.
After campaigning all the years, all the 5 years, then you're being elected one day, but we elect 6 offices. Everybody is really concerned on its or her or hers position, where she or he is going to get. Then this brings a lot of conflict of interest. Like, for example, we have 4 presidential candidates now. We have Wajakoya, we have Raila Odinga, and we have William Ruto and the other guy.
Maura, yes.
Maura. Yes. When they are campaigning, they have their MCS, they have their senators, they have their, because everybody wants its political alignment to have some people to represent at the Congress or any other office. But the problem of this is one. This now where we are coming in to have differences in election. Like, for example, Kikuyu, Luo, Kikuyu, Kalenjin, the tribal issues. They come because of that. But when we can do our election in beats, when we are electing governors, how will Luo and Kikuyu and Kalenjin fight? Because each and every one is fighting is electing their people in their own region. You see,
there's a lot of tribalism.
Exactly, yeah. But what bring in the tribal issues is that we are doing 6 elections at once, and then we say we are Luos, we want ours. If you go to Nyanza, it's 6 piece. If you go to Eldoret, those sides, it's 6 piece on the other side. By the time of Jubilee, if you go to Mountain, it was 6 piece. So this brings a lot of tribal issues. But if you can arrange our election in a way that the presidential to be given its year, even if you do the rest at the same time, but the presidential election should be different. And then we are going to have more youths in the parliament, we are going to have more youths at the county assembly, we will have more youths at the as a governor or a senate. Yeah.
And still on youth participation, looking at youths in the marginalized areas, and I'm talking about the northern frontier and some parts of coast.
Yeah.
When it comes to division of anything, they don't get anything. That is perhaps why they don't even intend not only to participate in the vote, to even have a voter's card.
It is because Kenya has not learned what was learned in Tanzania many years ago. I remember Julius Nyerere, Mwalimu Julius Nyerere said, it is better for us to remain Tanzanians, not tribals or small groupings. But you know, in Kenya, we are still dealing with the numbers.
Yes.
If you are coming from Mombasa, you cannot be president because you don't have the number. If you are coming from Northeastern, you don't have the number. Then they said, okay, what do we need? why do we need to elect a president if we cannot get the same seat? And we are claiming that we are all Kenyans. So if we change what I'm talking about, the presidential election, this will give us time and chance to elect a leader, not somebody who's coming from a big region.
Yes, and I think it's a week and a half ago where IBC told all the parties that had given nomination for the slots, both Parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate, they talked about, actually returned the list because it had not complied with what should have been, because what was evident is that political parties are using these slots, actually affirmative seats, to ensure that they reward some of their cronies or some of their friends. And it's a clear testimony from the two lists that were given that would have been the best opportunity for these parties to actualize the youth agenda by promoting a lot of youth, or by fronting a lot of names who are youths in those affirmative seats.
This issue called party primaries brought a lot of conflict in the party primaries. Because even those who are being given tickets for example, UDA, ODM, and all the rest, all the parties, Jubilee, you will find they must be related to the system. Maybe if they are electing 40 members of county assembly, you will find maybe only 2 or 3 won the primaries willingly. The rest are being you are my friend, being you helped me, I have to reward you, you must get. Even if you look how they conduct the party primaries, which happened 3 months ago, it was not what should be done. It was something unique, because they brought the machine and you only cast your vote, but you cannot count it. And you don't know where they are going to count it. So even if you win or if you lose, you don't even know how many votes you got in this thing. You cannot even tell how many people voted to you. What you can know is that you went to that machine and you clicked your name and you walk away. But you don't know the system or they're going to use on counting the votes. But again, if you look again, those who are being given the party primaries ticket, they are related in a way, or they've been supporters in a way, or they had something to give to the members of parliament. They actually affected the whole system. And then when it comes now to again nomination, that parties nominate maybe a person living with disability or gender or youth. You must find that anybody who is being in that list must be related to maybe somebody in power. Only 1% or 2% or 3% are the genuine people who got it with their credentials. So that is actually what is happening, and that's why the youths are not gaining a lot, and that's why the youths are not getting chance to be elected, because those who are in power has the money to conduct and do anything. You have to kneel down to them, you must be with them, is when they can say, okay, it is today, we can reward you. According to Election Act, it should not be like that. It should be like, whoever feel that I'm enough to go and look for any position, let me go there and exercise my political right and get it. But in Kenya, I don't think if it is working the same way. Because of the experience. We know what happened in 1992. We all know. We know what happened in 2007.
Okay. We can also look at youth empowerment, and allow me, you're watching KBC News Check. Allow me now to introduce our second guest, who will also help us delve much deeper into these waters of engaging the youth. Active participation in politics, not only in campaigns, but youth are not even getting their own vote. Youths are not also coming out to vote, even for their own. And now, introducing my other guest, Ricardo Nyantika. Wow, quite a name, Ricardo. Investment insurance consultants, Heritage Insurance, CFC, and also Stanbic Investments. Karibu sana, bro.
Thank you.
And perhaps because you are an investor and you quite deal with a lot of things when it comes to empowering somebody financially, the youth are talking about, we do not have sufficient resources to try and muscle out seasoned politicians. And they have the numbers, but unfortunately, from 2017 to now, they've actually reduced, when you talk about the number of youths that registered to actively participate in these years. It actually fell by over 5%. empowerment of the youth. They say they do not have enough resources that they can be able to muscle out seasoned politicians.
Well, what I can comment about the youth and voting apathy is that the biggest failure for youth is not registering to vote. And there is no system or amount of resources that can overpower the will of the people. If the youth really wanted to be involved, they should register en masse. And if you look at the trend right now, between 18 and 35 years, the majority of them, but majority of them, if it was possible for them to vote through social media, they could have changed the system from any point.
But Ricardo, unfortunately, even IEBC did use a lot of social media to try and encourage youths to come out and register as voters, but that did not happen.
That's what I'm saying. People do not want to go to register to vote. And they tend to complain a lot about being ignored or sidelined in the power hierarchy. But first priority, do you have a voter's card? So they have left this one to the people between 35 and above. So if you get most of the voters are 35 and above, and particularly women, the majority numbers. So seasoned politicians, most of them you'll find that they have also studied the art of voting for Kenyan voters, and they have identified that the majority of the voters are older people and women. So you get that they invest more in those ones who are willing to stand and go vote.
And unfortunately, youth use the youths for their campaigns.
The youths are used as mobilizers and groundbreaking, or swaying the vote, but they are not actually most of the voters. That is the unfortunate part of it.
All right. We will be looking at how to empower them and actually have them participate more, because looking at even public barazas and even the county assembly participation when it comes to enactment of anything, they are not coming out in large numbers. Let's take first of all our first break. You're watching KBC News Check. Today we are looking at youth and politics, and I'm joined by Ricardo Nyantika, and also we have Newton Ogada in studio. Let's have that break, but we'll be right back. But we're also keeping a keen eye on IEBC. They're supposed to have a media briefing live from the Bomas of Kenya, something that we'll be doing each and every day until we are done with the polls. Let's have that break now.
Agenda yetu ni kupunguza gharama ya maisha.
He has described himself as a man on a mission.
I am a man on a mission. I have no space to retreat, and I don't have the luxury to surrender.
As a presidential runner in the 2022 elections, he has repeatedly referred to himself as a hustler.
You're the hustler number one.
But who is this man?
President.
William Ruto, through the eyes of the Mwananchi.
Abantu bami ntombu ya more Your favorite Ekegusi station, Minto FM, is now at your doorstep. Enjoy the hottest Kisi music, informative and entertaining shows, and reliable news only on Minto FM. Tune in to Minto FM on 91.7 FM in Nyamira, Kisii and its environs.
Minto FM in Nyamira in Nyamira.
You happen to have a sister and you don't even do the least that you can to patch things up with her. Just try to get closer to her. It's something that I really don't know how to explain at all. It's something that I feel inside my chest.
I ask you to forgive me.
I also came here to see my son so that I could apologize to him just as you did, my dear.
Welcome back, and just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check, and today we are looking at matters politics and the youth. But IEBC and other stakeholders have talked about the youth not being actively involved in politics, and the issue has not even been given that opportunity is that themselves are not coming out to actively participate in election and the election cycle as well. What is the leadership of this country headed to? How can we change this narrative? And in studio, I'm joined by two gentlemen. We have Ricardo Nyatika, who is also contesting for the ODM NCA Embakasi Ward seat in the next week's election. We have only a week, and also we have Newton Ogada, who is a philanthropist and also a mentor. He's also the director of God Will Provide orphanage in Homa Bay County. Gentlemen, karibuni tena.
Thank you.
And perhaps back to you, Ricardo. You saw the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio la Umoja list that was turned back by IBC. They said, looking at this list, you haven't incorporated what you should. And something that was so conspicuous, other than the position, the affirmative seats for the youths, the rest were not youths in both sides. And these are the people who want to lead the country in support of the youth. What do you have to say in regards to that list and youth participation? That would have been a good avenue for addition of youths perhaps to active politics?
I can say it could have given a good avenue for the youth into active politics. But it also comes into play into party matters. And there are issues with loyalty, and there are issues with active participation in a party's system, because they cannot just pick you from your house and reward your seat. There are people who sacrifice day and night to work for these parties and to help build them. And being a leader, you'll always want to reward those who have sacrificed their time and resources to build the party. So it brings in a lot of challenges to fill those spaces. And if we are talking also about the women part of it, there is also a big challenge. How many of those are in active politics? And how do you identify them to reward them? Like now you get like when in my ODM primaries, you get that it was only one lady or two out of around 10 or 12 or 15 men. And most of the time, they are really not very active. So you get parties also face challenges with identifying people who they can fill into those spaces. So loyalty plays in to the party.
And back to you, Newton, looking at 2007, there's some ugly incidences that as a country we wouldn't want to even think about. But unfortunately, during campaigns and even unfortunately this year, we have seen some pockets of violence. And in each and every election cycle, there are some people who are arrested. We hear a certain politician, because I've covered some court cases regarding hate speech in court, but unfortunately we haven't been able to apprehend and maybe jail one or two of these leaders. Perhaps that is why we see youths are so comfortable when they are used by politicians to cause mayhem.
The setup of the political alignment in this country is bad. That's why when I start talking, I said there was a year that Pharaoh had a dream and he had to find a person to interpret the dream. If you see our politicians outside there, the language they're using when asking for votes is not mature and it's not presidential. For example, I don't want to quote anybody's name, but I want to say if I want to be, for example, my brother is vying for a political position, the best I need to do is to go and sell my policy and tell people what I think should be done in my constituency, in my county, or in my country. Not calling names and using abusive language to the opponent. This brings, because for example, everybody open TV at home, and maybe my one young boy who is a teenage is watching the news and see the big men are using abusive language in front of thousands and millions of people, you know. So this youth will actually take it that this is the way of playing politics. This is the way that if you want to play politics, you have to insult somebody. But to me, I feel we should be going to the media or any platform that we have been given to go to, but to speak on what is good to our country. If Uhuru and Ruto managed the country for 10 years, what did they do wrong and what did they do right? And what can we add to what they did? What the correction we can do to beautify and to benefit the economy of my country? If maybe my governor did not do it good and I'm vying for the same position, the best I need to tell our people that this guy maybe failed on this. But if you elect me in my government, I'm going to make this road, I'm going to make this. And this is why the youths are now becoming too angry. Let me use this because it was in the media. I watched it. When somebody said that I worked for you to be elected, and now you want to kill me. What message are you selling or sending to a youth who will actually be interested on vying? You know, you already start the war before it reached the day. So my plea to the politicians that we have in this country, be it Uhuru, Raila, Ruto, Diwajakoa, because those are the big fish that we have now, they should have or practice the best language of telling us what they are going to do to us, not repeating what happened in 2007, 2013, 2017, 1992, 1997. Because the politics that we are running today is one. This person will abuse you, Muganga. This person will abuse you, thief. And then by the time my candidate is being abused, mganga or thief, as a youth, I am ready waiting. If there is still more votes today, in this coming election, I will revenge. If somebody is telling you that don't kill my children, don't kill my family, don't kill me, as somebody killed who?
And they are the political elites.
And they are the political that we are going to elect tomorrow. What message are these people sending to a youth? Let me tell you, the youths have never even thought of going to the street to throw the stone. But something which is pushing the youth to go to the street is the abusive language that the opponent are keep on throwing. You see?
And the support, the people who they support.
The people they supported. Number two, I've never seen any politician send his children, his youths, to the street. I've never seen one. By the time like this, even their children, I've never voted for them. They're outside of the country. They're being ferried outside the country. You will never see any. Can I say they don't have kids? They have. Have you seen any of their children in any rally? Nobody. You can only see yours and your brother. So I'm trying to tell our leaders who are in the platform that whenever you want to go and campaign for a political position, please use the best language to win the votes, not the abusive language to win the vote. Lastly, is that if you're being elected and you abuse all these people of deaths and killings and all those things, how will you do to them after you being elected in the office? There's a big question mark in that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ricardo, it's a good thing you brought about the issue of women who actually form the majority of voters. Let's look at young, youthful women. Because in this year's election and campaigns, we have seen that I have actually hosted some women who talk about they have been intimidated, they have been called names, they have been banished, they have been also, the campaign materials, billboards have been defaced. And at the end of the day, it's a young woman. Those who come to either intimidate or even deface billboards happen to be young people. The question is, are the young people their own poison? They are not voting for their own. They are the ones being used against their own. And at the end of the day, they didn't go to pick or to get a voter's card, and they will not participate in the general election, but will be used by politicians, either in a good way or vice versa.
See, all these things are being brought about by lack of jobs. And when people don't have jobs, they tend to do, or the lack of empowerment, they tend to do anything to survive. And these youths see an opportunity to earn a living during the electoral period. That's when they can access more their leaders, in which I can say that is one of our biggest failures, lacking programs that empower the youth. And we as a new generation of leaders, including myself, the young ones, we have come in, we have been having the older generation in those seats. We have taken our time and spoken to most of the youths and other older people, and they have given us our support. And we are working on a way to discourage and try to empower the youth to avoid a circle of this kind of hooliganism and defacing. But if you look at the women, particularly this election, I can say this is one of the most peaceful election, even the campaign period, we have ever witnessed. We haven't seen mayhem all over. If you look at Nairobi, you cannot tell me that there are incidents of massive insecurity, just a few pockets here and there. So we want to encourage the young women. At least the boys are trying. Where we are having a low turnout for voters, particularly the young, upcoming ladies from colleges and the new working class, they're the ones who are not voting. And they're the ones who are not seeing the sense of voting. You can never say that there is a period that you can have zero harassment or zero intolerance in politics. Even in developed democracies, there are always attacks, either on social media or verbally. Even at work, where you work, you cannot avoid some form of intimidation. So we are saying it's high time people stand in for their own rights. And by voting, it gives you an idea of the person, or it empowers you to be able to choose the person you want. You have an opportunity to change how things work. But you cannot change things by sitting at home. There are several programs that are even now empowering the youth. The Youth Fund, the Wezo Fund. So I don't know why people are not picking up these government opportunities. Is it lack of information? Is it a reluctance to try into new fields? We would like to encourage our youth, even from Embakasi ward, because they come from one of the largest wards, with over 46,000 registered voters. A small ward, I think, is one of the biggest wards.
It has a population bigger than some of the counties, eh?
Yes.
Yes.
It has a population bigger than, I think, Tana, is it Tana River? Oh, Lamu.
Voters.
The voters. We would like to encourage my fellow youths to pick up the opportunities with these technical training colleges so that they can have some basic skills. Because all these youths, if you visit and talk to them, it's basically why they don't have jobs is lack of skill. And lack of skill leads to unemployment. Hence, you get that the only time they get a quick fix of access to resources is when the politicians, my fellow politicians, are campaigning.
The hand of politics, you say?
Yes. And I cannot blame them, because everyone wants to feed.
And still, Ricardo, on the same, we're talking about how these youths are being used. Looking at 1992, we had some issues, and especially we had some issues in Burnt Forest. In 97, it's a whole different story. In 2013, the election was disputed. We have some pockets of violence, same as the year 2017. But looking at all these election cycle years, we have never convicted anyone and say that Newton Ogada is serving a 10-year jail term because he was found doing ABCD while he was contesting. Looking at voter bribery, the ones that we are talking about as a handout politics, there is a jail term of 6 months and a fine of, I think, 2 million shillings if you're caught bribing voters. But that is something that we always witness. Perhaps there is a gap or a gray area in the criminal justice system, because looking at all those years, we're talking about over 20 years, that we never convicted anyone based on what he did or over election malpractices. Is that gray?
I'll find it.
The youth, of course, are not deterred, because no one has ever been convicted. We've seen some people being charged, we've seen some people being arraigned in court, but we've never had a conviction, which at least could be a deterrent to youths who are being used to cause mayhem.
I think it's quite a complicated process. First, for you to prove that this person was being bribed, it's not easy. And then the investigating authorities.
I'm talking about all election malpractices, not only the bribery. But bribery perhaps is the most pronounced one.
It's a complicated thing, we can say. And if you look at it, who are the ones behind the laws? It's the same politicians.
But at least the judiciary is
influencers of policies.
And the DPP is an office that is quite independent. But unfortunately, we've never convicted anyone, even for the 2007.
What I can tell you, at the end result, everybody gets those jobs through the political system. The people who appoint those people into those jobs are the politicians. And once you find that the politicians have the hand in whoever is employed or in whichever law that works, of course you cannot sharpen for yourself a spear. You will always make something that works for you. And so long as that one, I can guarantee you, so long as we have this chain of high unemployment and poverty, you can never have peaceful elections. And you can even never have people, because poverty compromises how people vote. If you go to the way the middle class votes, and those with low income earners, is quite the reason why they vote for you is quite different. So, assuming we have moved into a middle class economy, then you will see a change in pattern of how we do our politics. But so long as people don't have jobs, people don't have proper education, then it brings a complication, because these people want to live. These people live for today. I don't have.
Okay, Newton, you want to dig in because looking at, we've had pockets of violence. Let's be very honest, for a couple of years, election cycles, but we've never convicted. We've never had a conviction. Perhaps that could act as deterrent to maybe youths, because they wouldn't want to be in jail just like anybody else who was caught. But unfortunately, we have never had a single conviction.
You know, the
to act as a deterrent.
Judiciary works in different ways. When somebody is being arrested on maybe in political clashes, the court will need clear evidence and witnesses. And nobody will wish to go stand firm and say, I'm a witness to my brother because he convicted the other person. Because by the time you go and stand in as a witness, there's another problem between me and that family. They will see you are trying to take their person to jail.
Okay.
What can solve this problem is one, civic education. Number one, have never seen any politician calling his supporters that today I'm earning my salary, so I need you. I've never had one. They will never say the government already put some allowances, so I want you. So our people should actually understand that whatever we are doing to elect these our leaders, number one, we are looking for them the job opportunity. Just imagine you don't have a job and you're trying to push somebody to get the job. So why are you fighting for the first place? Number two, we need to know whom we are electing. If we elect you because you give us a lot of money, you are going to underperform. We need to elect people who understand our problems. We need to choose one of us, one of our own, and say this is a person we know is poor, but we want him to go to the power and make sure that he improves the living style.
Okay.
For example, me, I'm working in a small organization.
1 minute. I hear we are preparing to cross over to Birmingham. So I'm giving you 1 minute each, kindly.
Yeah, what I was trying to say, we need to elect somebody who is going to build up the economy, which is now rotten.
All right.
Only that.
30 seconds.
One thing I can say, let the youth get involved in the voting and let them try as much as possible, turn out and vote next week. Let their voice be heard in the ballot box.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Unfortunately, we have to wrap it up here because we have to cross over to Birmingham for the Commonwealth Games. Thank you so much for coming, Ricardo Nyatika, who will be seeking the MCA seat, ODM, Embakasi Ward.
Yeah.
And Newton, always a pleasure having you. He's a philanthropist. He's also a mentor and also the director of God Will Provide Orphanage in Homa Bay County. Thank you so much. My name is Njue. We continue this conversation on social media, but for now, this is where we wrap it up. We will be crossing over to Birmingham for the sports fun. It's Commonwealth Games. Thank you so much for watching.
kabwatutikuk ngimache iyat muguleldangung ngimache imong'ugei nyangebe kiputinai laleyo kimi kibagenge Kitwek FM kikosin Kitwek FM kikosin
98.0 Kitwek FM kikosin.
Tachonga viazi wewe. Na isitoshe utaosha hata vyombo.
Mimi nioshe vyombo mimi?
Hata unacheza.
Wanaume mzima mimi nioshe vyombo kwa sababu ya kukula chakula ya hoteli hii mimi.
Wait.
What?
Mogaka.
Kwa ofisi.
Plani umepita.
Tangu lini mnaekea mimi michele hivi kama patko? Chukua nyama rudisha huko.
Mimi unapenda kusumbua sasa.
Sipendi kusumbua na leta bwana.
Kwa mtu mimi nataka uchafue.
Nani nionyeshaje jina yake sasa hivi?
You happen to have a sister and you don't even do the least that you can to patch things up with her. Just try to get closer to her. It's something that I really don't know how to explain at all. It's something that I feel inside my chest.
I ask you to forgive me.
I also came here to see my son so that I could apologize to him just as you did, my dear.
Gonzalo!
As you say, Simon, but she twiddles the bat as well. She turns it round. Watch her on service here. She'll serve with the red side, and most of the time she then plays with the black side. Not on that occasion. 2, 3. But often she will turn the bat round and punch away with the short pimples. Makes life very difficult for the opponents.
So Wales off to a lead here.
Gee, they're hitting the ball with the green side of her racket, and that's the pimple side. That's when it comes through quite flat, and then she uses the reverse side and it comes through with topspin on the ball. Good example of the pimples there. That ball was very flat. In fact, it had a slight amount of backspin on it. And Thomas just failed to lift it. Excellent play by Australia.
Lay off to a slowish start, and she was yesterday a little in the semi-final.